Wake up, wake up, wake up. What's up, boys? We're going to talk getting to $15,000 per month in revenue as a closer. I'm going to get real with you here on what it takes to make that kind of money with your skill set in sales. And as many of you know, I believe that learning high ticket sales, learning closing is one of, if not the best ways to get yourself kicked off in making more money, kicked off in making income, to provide an amazing life for yourself, for your family, to give you a platform to build a business, to give you a platform to collaborate with very high value business owners. I think closing is the best way to do that. I think it's puts you one step away from people that you actually do want to connect with. And being a high ticket closer, working in high ticket sales is a skill set that you can use for life in any industry that you get into, whatever you decide to pivot into. So in this training, I'm going to get really real with you. And I'm going to talk to you about what it actually takes and how to get to 15K, 20K per month in high ticket sales, because that's really what you should be aiming for to start off right out of the gate. It doesn't mean that you're going to do that in the first month. It doesn't mean you're going to do that even in the sixth month, but it does mean that that should be what you're aiming for, as in that's realistic. That's not something that's out of range. It's not where you have to be a 1% closer in order to do that. Unfortunately, the reality is that most people in high ticket sales will never make that kind of money. And the reason they won't make it is because they're not following what I'm going to give you here. But here's what you do. The first thing you have to understand in high ticket sales and high ticket closing, if you want to make good cash, is you have to build your skill set. That's what matters the most. The guys who build their skill set and the guys who get the best at understanding the process of getting a prospect to go from not buying and being afraid or worrying about finances to getting them to put their credit card in and spend money on the offer, and you get paid and they get a transformation, they get the results they're looking for. That is lying in your skill set. You need to work on your skill set. And this is one of the things that helped me get good and that I help guys with now, is building the skill set in sales. So going from being, let's say, a C+ skill set, I consider a C+, meaning you can hold your own. You don't look like you're the worst at it. And the uneducated, untrained eye would see you and say, oh, he's not bad, he knows what he's doing, but you're not really bringing the deal over the line. Whereas a B+ skill set would be, you can bring some deals over the line, but you miss some as well, even though you don't need to miss those other deals. And an A+ skill set is where you're not missing anything. And the only times you really don't close the deal or bring the prospect in, get paid, is because they physically can't afford it. And even then you get a deposit, or you talk about how they can move forward next time and figure it out with them if you can, if that's possible, right? So can you build your skill set to an A plus level? Because that really is the key that's going to separate you from everyone else and where the cash is going to come through. And a big part of your skill set is understanding how to handle objections. I know when I got into sales and when I started doing high ticket sales properly, the big thing that fucked everything for me was objections. I did not know how to handle objections. I would go through my sales process and I was really great at having conversations. I was really great at connecting. I was really great at having a good energy, a good vibe. All that stuff was fine. I built all the rapport in the world. People liked me. They were laughing, talking to me. The conversation was great. But at the end, when it came time to buy and they're like, okay, I'm going to think about it and get back to you, I wouldn't hear anything from them a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later. And it was frustrating. And I was leaving $750, $1,000 on the table with each call that I was doing, simply because I wasn't skilled enough to handle objections. And then when I worked on the skill, when I understood how to handle objections, learned from mentors, when I got better at my sales process, better at drawing out the pain, better at talking about their fear, better at creating a gap between where they are now versus where they want to be. When I created that and I understood how that dynamic worked, and I built my skill set through practice, which I'll explain more to you in a second, I started making more money. I started seeing months where I was hitting $10,000, $50,000, even $20,000. So build your skill set, because that's what's going to matter the most. The second way you do this, and this is what's really important, is you have to build your skill set the way that you go to the gym. The same way you go to the gym and you practice getting in certain exercises, you practice working on certain parts of your body, you practice legs, you work on chest, you work on building arms. The way you do that at the gym, that's what you need to do with closing. Closing is a skill set that you can practice, and you can literally treat it like you're going to the gym. So what I did to get good as a closer is I started practicing the different elements of the closing process. I started practicing how to create a gap between where the prospect is now versus where they want to be. I started practicing how to handle objections. And the third part is, this was really key, is I started training with guys that were really good. So instead of me just doing it on my own and kind of sticking my head down, or training with even the team that I was working with, because they're not good half the time. Most people aren't going to take it as seriously as you will if you want to make money. And if you really want to make money, I'm talking where you're hitting 20K per month, you've got to train with guys that are better than you. Like, you have to train with people that are going to push you. Again, it's like going into the gym. If you want to get good at lifting weights, if you want to get strong, if you want to get in shape, if you want to get bigger, you have to train with people who have done it. You have to train with people that are going to point out your blind spots. You have to train with people who are going to push you past your limits, who are going to say, no, we don't stop here, we go one level further. That's where the real shift is going to come from. So I started doing this. I started training with guys that were good. This is the third part. I started treating it like I was going to the gym, and I started training with guys that were really good. And then because I was training with guys that were good, it allowed me to know where I was at in the call and where I wanted to go. And this is really what helped me close more. This is where the shift happened. And this is the third point. I started to know where I wanted to go in my calls. So I was no longer just doing a sales call for the sake of it and like following a fucking script. I always knew where I wanted to go. And now when I talk to a prospect, I can become very present and I can stay calm and centered and grounded because I know where I want to go. So I'm never overthinking something. So as an example, if a prospect says, oh, that's really expensive, that's a lot of money, my response, I already have it dialed down. It's like, yeah, that's fine. And what you want also is a lot. You know, you're having a life where you have freedom and where you can spend on your family and where you can invest back into them. That's also a lot. So the question I have for you is, do you want to be the man who actually shows up for his family and gives them everything that they deserve, right? Does that have value to you? Yes or no? And then I go down a list of what we call crossroads questions. So because I've worked on the skill set, because I train with guys that are better than me, it allows me to know where I'm going to go in every call. So I'm never stumped. It's never like, where do I go? Sometimes, of course, there's situations that are new. Sometimes there's situations that maybe I haven't seen before. That happens rarely. But there's situations where maybe you get a personality profile that's a bit more challenging. But I always know the direction I want to go because I've been there, because I've done it, because I've trained with guys that were better than me and guys that pushed me. The fourth point, and here's what's really going to unlock everything for you, what actually unlocked everything for me. So the thing that got me better was knowing where I wanted to go. But then what opened it all up and made it just fucking easier for me was I started watching my own calls and looking at weak spots. Not everyone does this. I'm surprised at this. A lot of guys that I know that I've trained with, guys that are in programs that I've done, mentorships I've done, guys that I've trained myself, they weren't watching their calls. They're like, I want to get better, but I don't look at my own calls. Because to be honest, watching your own calls sucks. Like, it fucking sucks to look at your own calls. I hate watching my calls because I hate seeing myself on camera, kind of just not always knowing what to say, not being perfect. But one of the things that helped me get better was I started watching my own calls. I took my ego and I put it right up here in a little corner, put it in a little bubble, and then I started watching my own calls. And because I watched my own calls, I was able to see what I was doing in real time. And that's a huge advantage you have. You were able to see your own calls. You're able to see what you're doing in real time and make changes over time. So you're able to make gradual changes to little parts of your process. And as a closer, again, you know this from the first point, your money's going to come from your skill set. I'd rather be the guy that has less leads, but is closing 50% of them than the guy that's got tons of leads coming in or tons of prospects and is burning all of them down because his skill set's shit. And then he's going to get fired. He's going to lose his position. The company's not going to want to work with him. So if your skill set's on point, you're going to be able to bring in the money. And one of the ways to get your skill set better is by looking at your weak spots on calls, watching how you do calls, watching your patterns, understanding the way that you communicate and what your different limiting factors are or your weak spots are so that you can sand them over and simply get better. That really is the key. And the fifth point, what really helps and what's really good is role playing with the crew that can make you better. Finding a group of guys that's good, finding a group of guys that are equal to or above your skill set, ideally above. You always want to be with people that are better than you. So finding guys that are above your skill set, and it can be hard being a part of these groups, of course, but you're going to have to show up and show work ethic. You're going to have to show like you're hungry. You're going to have to show that you want it badly. Finding a group of guys like this, role playing with them and getting better. Role playing with them and practicing the sales dynamics back and forth, practicing the sales communication, practicing objection handling, practicing creating a gap, practicing pitching, practicing with these guys or girls over and over and over again. That's going to get you better. So role playing with the crew. I have a great crew of guys. Shout out Jose, shout out Caden, shout out CJ. I've got great dudes that I'm role playing with, that I practice with, that are part of my team that I can grow with, and not team in terms of who I work with, but they're part of programs that I've invested in, programs from mentors that I've paid to get better at at closing, to get better at sales. And because I've been around those guys, I was able to bump up my closing rate to 40%, bump it up where I'm bringing home 15, 20K a month, and doing that simply because I practiced the skill, simply because I dialed in the skill and I understood where the weak spots were by watching my own calls. I understood where I was going in the call, like what to do next. I treated it like the gym, literally like the gym, like an active practice and getting better and better and better. And I got my skill set up. And after getting my skill set up, it allowed me more freedom to really create what I wanted in terms of how I sold, in terms of how relaxed I am, in terms of how much authority I have on my calls, and really becoming the best version of myself as a closer to make more money, and then funnel that money into other businesses, funnel that money into creating a brand. That's really was my path. That's my path, and that's the path that I want to give to you and I want to help you find. So again, I've got nothing to sell you. What I want is for you to take action. So if you resonate with these ideas, there's two things you can do. One, subscribe, press the red button so you can learn from me. I make trainings like this 2 times a week. That's it. Just so you can learn from me, you can grow, and you can get the value, and you can make a change. That's what I want you to do. I want you to take action, and I want you to be in a different place in your life the way that I'm in a different place in my life. And I'm very blessed because I invested time in these skills. And then add me on IG and send me a message. If you want to chat with me, my IG is down below. It's oxytim at oxy.tim. Shoot me a message. You and I will have a chat. I respond to all my messages. I send back audios, and you'll hear from me directly. Be blessed. I'm going to leave you there. Good luck closing. Actually, it's not about luck. It's about your skill set. So work on your skill set. Keep on growing. Wake up. Get out of the haze. Step out of it. Let's go. I'll see you on the next training.